Here's our next example, and it's one for you to try. So pause the video and work through this problem, and then restart, because we'll look through the answer together right now. What is the cost per mile to drive a van that has a gas mileage of 12.7 miles per gallon and fuel costs $1.28 per liter? So what are we after in this question? Trying to find the cost per mile. So let's set up the units of our target answer, cost per mile. Next, we're going to identify the information in this problem that we'll need and start with cost. I think it's a good strategy to identify the unit in the numerator of our answer, and let's find that in the problem and set that up first. So it's $1.28 per liter. We'll make sure to put our cost in the numerator to match the price in the numerator of our answer. $1.28 per 1 liter. The next steps of this problem will require using the other information as fractions to divide out units and leave behind dollars per mile. So we need to divide out this liter that we have from the first quantity, $1.28 per liter. Where else do we have information about liters? Here's what we can use to convert liters into gallons. So should the fraction be liters over gallon or gallon over liter? Well, to divide out with this liter, we would need to have liters in the numerator. 3.785 liters per 1 gallon. The units of liters divide out. Now we're looking at dollars per gallon, but we need to divide out this unit of gallons also. It does not show up in the answer. So we can use this piece of information that uses gallons. 12.7 miles per gallon. So should we set it up as 12.7 miles over 1 gallon, or does it need to be reversed? It does need to be reversed so that we can divide out this unit of gallons in the denominator. So we need to set up the fraction 1 gallon per 12.7 miles. We see the units of gallons are dividing out, and we're left with dollars in the numerator and miles in the denominator. That's exactly what we want for our answer. So we're ready to calculate. We see a result of about 0.38, 38 cents per mile. Here's the next example for you to try. Convert 65 miles per hour into meters per second. So pause the video to try this one, and now we'll look through the answer together. In this problem, we can see that we're starting with 65 miles per hour. We'll want to write this as a fraction, 65 miles per 1 hour. What are the target units for the answer? Meters per second. So let's jot those down. Meters per second. Our next steps will be to figure out what conversion factors we can use to convert miles into meters and hours into seconds. You can start with either one, miles to meters or hours to seconds. Let's start with the time. We know 1 hour has 60 minutes. We're using the fraction this way so that the units of hours will divide out. We're left with miles per minute, and let's keep going to get minutes into seconds. We're using the fraction 1 minute over 60 seconds so that the units of minutes will divide out. Now we're at miles per second, but we need to change these miles into meters. We don't have a conversion factor for changing miles into meters, so we'll have to work in some other information that we know. We know there are 5,280 feet per mile, and to divide out those units of miles in the numerator, we'll need to write miles in the denominator in this fraction. Those units dividing out, we're at feet per second, so now let's change our feet into meters, and we can use this conversion factor right here, which is actually approximate. We'll need to put our units of feet in the denominator so that they can divide with those units of feet in the numerator. So let's take a look at the units that are left after all have been divided out. We're left with meters in the numerator and seconds in the denominator. So we have reached our target units. So let's do the calculating. Multiply 65 times 5,280 divided by 60, divided by 60, divided by 3.28, and we'll have our result in meters per second. Our result is about 29.07 meters per second. In my calculator I see 29.065, and I rounded that hundredths place up to 7. Now really quickly, let's talk about this calculating part. because my preference personally is that I multiply all the numerators and then one by one divide by the denominators. But a different approach that will give us the same correct final answer would be that we multiply all the numerators, and I'll just jot that answer down, 343,200. Then we'll multiply all the denominators across, because this is a lot like our approach for multiplying fractions. Straight across all the numerators, the results in the numerator, and then straight across all the denominators, and that result into the denominator, 11,808. But we're trying to turn this into a unit rate for our final answer, meters per 1 second. That means we'll take this fraction and divide, numerator divided by denominator, to get our final answer in a decimal form. And we get the same result, about 29.07. So take either way, whichever one you feel more comfortable with, either multiply across all the numerators and then divide one by one each number in the denominator, or multiply across all the numerators, multiply across all the denominators, and then divide, numerator divided by denominator. Here's our last example, and it's another one that you can try. Pause the video and try this one, and we'll start looking at the answer together right now. A driveway that measures 390 square feet will be covered by gravel. 1 pound of gravel will cover 2.5 square feet. A 12-pound bag of gravel costs $4.49. How much will it cost to cover the driveway? So we're given lots of different quantities in this problem. Let's identify the units of our answer. We're trying to come up with just a total cost, not a unit rate, just a dollar amount. So we'll set up our units for the target, the answer, just dollars, so we'll put it over 1. Next, let's identify other information in the problem that tell us about cost, because we'll know that we should be setting up a fraction that has cost in the numerator, because that's where cost ends up in our target, in the numerator. So here's information about cost, so we can set up our first fraction, $4.49 for 12 pounds of gravel. So we've got our units of cost in the numerator. We need to figure out now how to divide out those units of pounds. We have other information about pounds. 1 pound of gravel covers 2.5 square feet. In order to divide out those units of pounds, we'll need pounds in the numerator. 1 pound over 2.5 square feet. Those units of pounds dividing out, we're left with dollar per square foot, but we'd like to divide out those units for square feet also. We know about the driveway, 390 square feet. Basically the last piece of information in the problem that we haven't used. 390 square feet will definitely need it up in the numerator to divide out these square feet units in the denominator. This is not a rate itself, it's just telling us a total area that we have, so let's make it look like a fraction, put it over 1. Now looking at our units, it looks like we have arrived at the answer. We have only units of dollars left, our cost. So we're ready to calculate. $4.49 times 390 divided by 12 divided by 2.5. And calculating total cost, $58.37.